So, pizza has been around for a very long time, part of a lot of different cultures, and there's so many different ways to make pizza. A lot of different toppings, cheeses, we can build our crust now out of cauliflower, crazy things like that. Anything imaginable. But even though you can get pizza at tons of different places that make it their own special way, one of the most special ways to do it is here in your own kitchen. So let's make a pizza. One thing that's really important before you get started is to have all of your ingredients ready to go. So it's really important that you gather those up, put them into separate little containers, and have those off to the side. So as you need to add them together, you have what you need. Plus, you know if you have all the ingredients beforehand in case you need to run to the grocery store. So let's go ahead and get everything we need. For today's recipe, we're gonna go ahead and double all of our ingredients because we wanna be able to have an extra pizza crust that we can put into the freezer for later. So if you just wanted to make this for one person, go ahead and half all of these measurements. So first, let's start out with our active dry yeast. One package normally contains 2 1/4 teaspoons, so we're gonna use 4 1/2 teaspoons. Then we'll get 2 cups of warm water, roughly around 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, we'll set aside 2 teaspoons of white sugar. We need to make sure that we have plenty of flour for this. We're gonna have to have 5 cups of bread or AP flour. Finally, let's get together 2 teaspoons of salt. Now that we have everything together, let's take the warm water and place it in our mixing bowl. Now we'll add the sugar and the dry yeast, stir these together to mix, and set a timer for 10 minutes. One very important part of your ingredients is your active dry yeast. You want to make sure that it is foaming and activating by the water and the sugar that you put in. And so when you look for your active yeast, make sure that it's foaming and starting to thicken up. When you get that sort of substance, then you know that you're good to go. Otherwise, you need to get some more yeast. Let's go ahead and mix together the remaining dry ingredients, the salt and the flour. Put those together in a larger bowl and give it a good whisk. Now we can begin adding in our dry ingredients to the wet. One thing that's really important is to make sure that you have the right tools that you need for this job. Now I know it's a little bit taboo that we're going to be using a mixer and we're going to have our dough hook attachment on it, but don't worry, we're going to get our hands dirty once that dough rises, then we're going to knead it by hand. You'll want to mix your dough for about 10 minutes. This way you can get a really good consistency and you'll add some of the flour as you go along. You want your mixture to be semi-sticky, so you may need to add flour from time to time if it's too sticky, and if it starts to get too dry, you need to back off on the flour. Now we need to pull our dough out of the bowl and shape it into a nice ball. Lightly oil the inside of the bowl, roll the dough ball around the oil, and let it rest in the bottom of the bowl. We'll grab a warm, damp towel and cover your dough for about 30 minutes. While your dough is rising, set your oven to 500 degrees and place a pizza stone on the middle rack. Once we do that, we can lay out the ingredients that we're going to decorate our pizza with. Alright, we're getting a couple things out of the fridge, and I know this is going to be taboo, but again, we're getting in trouble by the purists of pizza making, but we're going to use a pre-made pizza sauce. In another video, we'll go ahead and make a homemade pizza sauce. Then we're also going to get our cheese together, so we've got mozzarella cheese, and we're also going to use some Wisconsin cheese curds. This is going to make it really interesting. If you've never had cheese curds before, I highly suggest you get them. Try them out. You can melt them in the microwave, you can add them to scrambled eggs, or for this case, we're going to put them on pizza. We're also going to add some pepperonis to this as well. But let's go ahead and check our dough. As you can see, it's risen, so let's go ahead and knock it down, and we're going to cut this in half because remember, we're going to save some of this dough for later. After we've cut it in half, let's put some flour on the counter and roll the dough out. This is the time that we can start to flatten the dough out into a round shape. Use your fingers to start pressing out the edges. You can also start lifting the dough and letting gravity help shape our pizza. Once we have roughly a 12-inch pie, then we're going to go ahead and grab our paddle, sprinkle a light amount of flour to allow our dough to slide off easily. Place the dough on the paddle, and grab a spoon and your sauce, and place it in the middle, spreading the sauce from the middle out to the edges, and add more if needed. Then we can grab our cheese and spread it around, and finally, our pepperoni. Place the pizza in the oven and set a timer for 15 minutes because we have a thicker dough. After the timer's gone off, let's start checking the bottom of the dough to ensure that it's getting brown. When we're using a thicker cut of mozzarella, it takes a moment to get that to melt properly. When it's showing color, grab some tongs and pull the pizza onto a round pan. Here we can let the pizza rest for a moment before we slice up and dig in. All right, there we are. We have made a homemade pizza. How exciting. I hope that you had just as much fun as I did. And I look forward to seeing you on the next adventure of our recipes at home.